Yes, 100%. Because if we look at the numbers, as I said, we have about 88 billion US dollars estimated annual illegal financial outflows from Africa. We have about 20 million hectares of land leased to foreign entities, and that only includes what is leased, not what is owned by foreign entities from previous colonial structures or from them, quote unquote, buying from the government, who was at the time a colonial structure, right? In comparison, 20 million hectares maybe doesn't sound a lot, but in Germany, for example, we have 16 million hectares in agricultural land. That's all that is registered as for 2024. So even more than we have in agricultural land is being leased officially to foreign entities in Africa. We have like China, the UAE, and EU countries who are the major investors in African farmland today still. We have a deal that was supposed to go down for Madagascar, Madagascar land, about 1.3 million hectares of agricultural land, but it was thankfully cancelled after protests. The debt when it comes to Africa is about 600 billion, more than 600 billion US dollars of external debt today. China has about like 12% of African debt. It holds 12%, but it accounts for 35% of debt servicing costs. So we see the lack of equality there already. Then when it comes to the US, of course, we know that the US still plays a major role in many African countries. The US has about 29 military bases in Africa as for 2022. France has over 10,000 troops across West and Central Africa. And we have the Russian Wagner groups around, and these are only the officials. And we know there are many, many more when it comes to what they do under hidden covers, right? We have 83% of African exports as raw materials, and we have to re-import the processed goods of our raw materials for higher prices. So they're gaining constantly. We have EU and China that account for more than half, I think it was about 58% of Africans' total trade. That means the only or the major income that Africa as a continent has is highly dependent on EU and China. And also Nigeria refines only about 5% of its crude oil, despite being Africa's top oil producer, right? We have the CFA franc that controls 14 African economies. Western backed coups and regimes, as we already know, because they don't want to see us independent. Foreign elections interference, as we have for Russia, US, China, France, and a few more that interfered in African elections. And also, when it comes to intellectual and talent drain, African professionals in OECD countries increased by 40%, but over 55 African doctors and nurses work in the UK, US, and Canada. That's it speaks for itself, you know. There's also, I think, that is accounted for the brain drain, would make up to $4 billion annually what is lost in human capital and goes to colonizer countries, basically. So they have us in economical slavery still, they have us in mental slavery still, and every other part where they can interfere, they will interfere still until this day. There's no way we cannot see Africa still as prey.
Yeah, you would say this is the awareness we need, or we all need to be passing out, that we need to wake up and wake up. And you would ask yourself, you can only make awareness, and if you don't take actions, you will still be where you are for 100 years to come. And your kids' kids would come on and they will still make same awareness, and it will be endless. So somebody woke up, for example, Mali. Somebody, a guy, he woke up and he said, enough is enough, regardless, knowing that France is everything that, I mean, France is their godfather. He said no. He said, I would break this yoke. And he is doing it regardless of the threat. You said threats. So he knew that his life was going to be threatened. But he took this, he said, no, I will never be coward. I won't do what other African country leaders are doing. I will be who I want to be. He knew that his life was going to be threatened and he was ready for it. This is what I'm asking all of us to accept, that when will our leaders be selfless, put their self last and put their citizens first, and say, them with all this world power we have. Okay, like the fact, you look at the statistics she just read out, it points out that we are the air, the continents, as all the continents in the whole world is breathing. So if you know what you have and then you're still succumbing to the world power, so are you not stupid? If you know the light, the energy, the resources the whole world is using, 90% or 80% is coming from you, and you're still foolish to be slave to them, are you, whose fault is that? This is my problem. When you know you have the power, but you fail to acknowledge that you are holding the power, the key, and then you sit back and you allow your the other people to step on you and dictate to you what to do. Are you saying if presidents in our president, Nigerian president, and Ghana president, and South African president, and Egypt, and Morocco, and all these top African countries wake up and say enough is enough, we Africans can govern ourselves by what? Bros, let me ask you, what do you think will happen? Are you going to say that and now USA will sanction us, UK will sanction us, and African can live without the world on their own? And so my point is, when will our leaders wake up and say, damn, these people, we can do it on our own, they need us more than we need them?